Hey guys, it's Shadow Flyer. Today I want to talk about Air Force field training. This summer I went to field training at Max 3. I was in Squadron 7, Tango Flight, and I have to say it was very interesting. It's not quite what I was expecting, and in a good way, I guess. I was expecting something a lot worse than it actually was. I was expecting something very close to, I guess, almost like boot camp, and it was nothing similar to that in any regard. In fact, it was actually a little bit disappointing because, as many of you may know, field training is no longer as long as it used to be. It used to be a month long, about 4 weeks, but now it's only 2 weeks. They moved it down last year to 3 weeks, and then they moved it down this year to 2 weeks. So it's not very long at all, and it doesn't really take much to get through it. Only the first, I'd say, 3 or 4 days are actually difficult. After that, it's pretty easy. I mean, there are definitely times where it's not quite as fun, and you're still being evaluated, but the hard part is just the first few days. So if you can get through that, you're fine. So it was a little disappointing that it wasn't as hard as I was expecting, because I hold pretty high regard for our military, especially the Air Force, since that's the branch I want to go into. And when people ask me, hey, how long is your training? And I say, well, I'm going to training this summer for only 2 weeks. I get a lot of comments on, like, only 2 weeks. Like, that doesn't seem long enough. Like, if you're trying to be an officer in the Air Force where you are flying planes, or you are trying to save people's lives, or you're handling classified documents that ultimately go into our nation's security, like, you would expect that there's a lot more training involved with that. I mean, enlisted members go through a boot camp or basic training that's usually between 8 and 12 weeks long. So 2 weeks, it just seems very odd. And so I've always used it as an excuse that, well, with ROTC, which is what I'm in, we actually spend 4 years pretty much training for this, and then we just use those 2 weeks to kind of put it all together all at once as a more intense training environment. But now even that, I feel like that's not even quite true, because they have so many different tracks that don't require you to spend the 4 years in ROTC. There are 3-year programs, 2-year programs. I know several people that went through a 1-year program this past year, and I actually found out at field training that there are even shorter programs where effectively what they do is they arrive just a few days early to field training. They've already done their paperwork, and they've taken a PT test just to make sure that they can pass, but they just arrive a few days early, kind of see what it's like, get some training in, and then they use that time to just prepare, and then they have their field training, those 2 weeks for them, the following, once that their like little training session ends. So I don't know. I'll leave it with that, because I don't want to make this a 20-minute video on my ranting why I think field training should be harder or longer, but it's certainly interesting. But anyways, as for field training, there were a lot of different things that were unique to field training that I hadn't done anything quite like it at ROTC. However, they weren't that surprising. Like there were GLPs. Everybody had to be evaluated, so everybody always had at least one GLP, and they all had at least one good job position where they'd be evaluated, and everything changed every day so that they could evaluate you. But it was unique, but also not that different, like, if that makes sense. So they had ways to evaluate you, kind of like GLPs that were not what I've done before, but nothing super outrageous. It's just inventive. It's creative. It's fun, honestly. It's intense, but it's good. So those are my favorite parts. You also had drill evaluations you had to get done, and you didn't really do much PT. We did the PT test. I think like day 2 or day 3. I think it was day 3. But other than that, we didn't really do much PT. We did 2 pretty short runs. I'd say maybe a couple mile runs, maybe a mile, 2 miles, something like that. We did 2 runs, and then we did 1 PT session, which I hesitate to even call that a true PT session, because I think we did a total of 15 push-ups and like 20 sit-ups, and maybe a couple sprints. Like it wasn't anything. So don't go into it worrying about PT or anything physical. There are some more physical activities that you'll be doing, like on the obstacle courses, but they're so much fun. You're not really thinking about how physical it is. You're thinking, how can I do this and do it together as a team? And it's a more fun environment at that point. That's usually after your first few days. So I wouldn't go into it worrying too much. If you're a AS200 and you're about to go to field training, or maybe you're a freshman and you're just not sure anything about it or how bad it's going to be, don't worry about it. It's not nearly as bad as I thought, and I know it's not nearly as bad as many people thought. We heard a lot of like whispers and secrets and like, oh, hush hush this and hush hush that from the POC while I was being trained, and they made it sound like there was a whole bunch of like classified things that they couldn't tell us, because it was like it would give away the whole point of field training. And honestly, I didn't see any of that. There was one activity we did that they told us while we were preparing for it. They said, hey, we don't want you to talk about this after you get back. It's kind of just reserved for field training, and it's kind of just, it's fun, but we want to make it a surprise so that they can't really prepare for it in advance. Other than that, and I mean, I guess there were some of the like GLPs, I guess we couldn't share, but it's not much that you would want to share. So honestly, if you're doing your Lee Lab activities, you're preparing GLPs, you know how to do drill, you'll be fine. And even warrior knowledge, we spent so much time preparing for warrior knowledge at my detachment that I thought it was going to be this huge thing, but when we got there, it wasn't. We were asked a few questions on day 1, TD0 technically, and then after that, we were maybe asked a total of 5-6 questions, like as an evaluation, and other than that, no, we didn't really do much. Occasionally, if you're waiting for something, you can do it as a flight, but there's really not that much of it. So all I can say is, if you're about to go to field training, or you're just looking at a ROTC and you're hearing about field training going, oh no, what on earth is that? Don't worry about it. You'll get through it. I'm going to make some additional videos pretty soon about other things in ROTC. But other than that, that's about all I have for today. Hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure to like, subscribe. As I said, I'll be making more, so be sure to stay tuned for it. Have a great day, guys.